On this channel, I love featuring domestic pressure washers because those big manufacturers are always going to be fighting for your money, which means they're more than likely to go above and beyond to try and find you the best possible deal within your budget. So in this video today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the best-selling pressure washers of 2025. Today's challenge is to find a pressure washer with a budget between £250 to £350. So for that sort of money, we're after something that can really deliver on being the complete package. Now the main objective of this video is to try and identify which is going to be the best pressure washer for you based on your own personal needs, whether it's car cleaning, patio cleaning, or a bit of general use around the home. Now we've got three different models that we're going to be featuring. First up will be the Karcher K5 Power Control Flex, then we've got the Ava Easy P57, and then the Power GP6. This video covers everything you need to know, but I also want to take a look at other things which you may not have even thought about. So let's start off with the Ava Easy P57. So I've already made two separate videos on the Easy P57. I did the launch video and then we did a 12-month later review. So I had this on constant use for 1 year and I've got loads of different opinions and feedback on how it performed. So if you haven't seen that video yet, I will leave a link in the description below. So if we have a quick look at everything that comes in the box, you get a big round patio head, you get a patio nozzle which has a little ball inside which spins, and that basically gives you extra pressure, which means that you can clean things also like the patio in other tricky areas like the corner, and then you can tackle other brick and stonework. So that's a really good tool to have, not something you should ever use on your car. We've also got an adjustable nozzle here with three different settings. You've got wide, narrow and a bit of both. And now if you have it on a bit of both, it has a little bit of a wide fan, a bit of a narrow fan as well, and it just reduces that pressure. So if you wanted to lightly go over the vehicle, because this hasn't got any adjustable pressure, you can set it in the middle and it will just lightly sprinkle over the vehicle. So if you want to play it safe, that's a really good setting to have. We also have a premium foam cannon, we have a stubby gun, and then we have an extendable lance. There pretty much is everything you need here for car cleaning. Now I'm not a massive fan of using a stubby gun on its own because I feel I don't like to get too close to the car because you can get a lot of splashback and you get a wet t-shirt. I actually prefer to have an adjustable lance. So with this one, it's extendable. So if you're trying to reach over the other side of the vehicle or on the roof perhaps, this is going to basically do everything you could possibly need. So I absolutely love the whole bundle they got here, and it really does tick pretty much every single box. Now if there's one criteria that is essential for car cleaning, it has to be the length of the hose. Now I featured so many different pressure washers that have had really long hoses or really short hoses. If we look at the Ferex pressure washer from Audi, that had just a 3-meter hose and it had a short power cable as well, which meant it was borderline dangerous to me. When you're trying to wash a car, you've got water splashing everywhere and you're constantly carrying around this pressure washer, which is connected to a mains. It just felt a little bit dangerous every time the hose was popping off. You know, it could pop off and get over the plug and then it's game over. So I didn't really like that idea. But with this, they take it to a whole new level. You get a 12-meter hose. And in my opinion, I think 12 meters is the sweet spot, between 10 and 12 anyway. If you're working on a large vehicle, at no point would you ever have to pick this pressure washer up and drag it around and move it to the other side of the car. You can literally keep it still, pull the hose out, and it's also got a 5-meter power cable as well. So you have 17 meters of length to work around a car. Let's talk about the hose reel because this is a cracking idea. However, I think they do need to have a different handle. Now I have mentioned this in the past, but when you reel up a hose from the garden, I always reel it up that way. I don't normally reel it up this way. So this is what the Ava Easy P57 does. So I feel that it takes a bit longer to roll it backwards towards me. However, it's got this really chunky handle that you have to cup your hand around. Now, if you've got arthritis, I don't think this will be the easiest thing to spin back up. Personally, I would love to see a handle about this thickness and this length, so I could stick the handle in there and just reel it up. But I mean, it would be so much easier, wouldn't it? That would make sense to me. But I think this is something that they could easily change, and being called the Easy Pressure Washer, I think they should be able to do that. And I definitely don't want to be too judgmental because everything else about this is just smashing. I love the way that the hose can easily navigate through the hole. The power cable wraps up and it's all nice and tidy and it clips on the back here. You can adjust the handle, so if you wanted to put the foam cannon on there as well, along with the lance, you can still go ahead and do that. You can fold it back up. It's about 10.6 kilos, so it's quite lightweight. It's got a handle up here and a handle below, so if you wanted to load it into the boot of your car or on a shelf, it's so easy to do. So folding it away, it's just brilliant. There is one thing that I think you're definitely going to love with the AVA, and it's the adaptability. So yeah, you can fold the handle up, keep it all out of the way if you wish, but if you wanted to make sure everything was still together, we got the patio head and nozzle. I got another nozzle which is attached to the lance, which is attached to the trigger, and we got the foam cannon. So if I wanted to move it around, I can literally move the entire unit with all the cables and everything just together in one hit, which I just think is fantastic. So the Easy P57 has set the bar very high. So let's see what the Karcher can do. So this is the Karcher K5 Power Control Flex. Now that word flex is the most important word you are going to be hearing today if you are on the lookout for any Karcher K series model. Because if you do not buy a Karcher K5 or any K series pressure washer with the word flex in, you're not going to get one of these, which is an anti-kink flexi hose. Now the good thing about these is they're vastly better than the previous hoses that came along with the older Karcher K series. So now they're starting to up their game a bit, and I think it's due to all the feedback they've been receiving about those hoses which keep kinking up, which has led them to this conclusion of getting a brand new hose. So these are really good, and I did recently test it in a Karcher K3 video where it did perform very well. So let's look at the Karcher K5 itself. Now we have featured a K4 which has a similar body, and the K7 for that matter. So there's not really a lot to this machine. We've got space for you to put your power cable down here where they've got this netting, but it is quite a thick cable, which is a good thing, by the way. That's not a negative thing. So it's not as easy to stuff it down there. So I feel sometimes this netting can come off, which can be a little bit annoying. Now there is no hose reel with this particular pressure washer. They do other models, which I still think are available because they do so many different variations where you can get a hose reel on top, but I don't know, that was a long time ago I last saw one of them, so I may have to double check that one. But look, you've got space here for your hose to go, for your flexi hose, and you can even put your triggers in the front as well. So in terms of having a place for everything, yeah, it can certainly do that. Look, you can put all your nozzles in here and you're good to go. So if we take a look at the Karcher body and how everything all goes in together, you can see there pretty much is a place for everything you need. So we're going to start off with the lance. They've got rid of the old school lances, which you had to connect them up to an app. I don't know if any of you have actually got this yourself at home, but with the lance you could adjust the pressure by using your phone, which meant when you had wet hands you had to go onto your app and try and adjust the pressure that way. It just seemed pointless. So what they've done is they've just gone back to basics. Just twist it and you can change the pressure. Just makes sense, doesn't it? And then there's a setting here which says mix, which means that you can run your chemicals through. Now speaking of chemicals, you can put a shampoo or a foam or even a patio cleaner through this little container here, and it cycles through the system and out onto the vehicle. But I don't really like that idea because you can potentially damage the internal components. In terms of build quality, this is the heaviest of the three pressure washers. It does feel nice and solid, but one thing I really do like about it is the handle that just goes up and down. Just goes up and down like normal, like you would expect. With the AVA, you have to tilt the pressure washer forward, press a button in, fold it out, and I just feel, I mean, it's not a deal breaker for the AVA, but I just feel the Karcher one is a lot easier and it makes sense. So this is the K5 Power Control Flex. However, if you wanted to kick it up a notch and spend a little bit of extra money, you can go for the K5 Power Control Flex Home and Car, which basically gives you the patio tool, you get a foam cannon, you get a brush, but you also get some chemicals thrown in as well for good measure. But the thing is, there's so many retailers selling different variations, I think it can get slightly confusing. So that's why we're focusing on the basics, and we've got to remember that if you buy everything else with it, then that price shoots up dramatically. So the aim of the game here for me is to try and keep everything around the £300 price bracket, and that's why we're just featuring the Power Control Flex. With the Karcher and AVA being very close in spec, what will our newest addition bring to the table? The first thing I want to cover is the power cable. So when we compare it to the Karcher and the AVA, it's identical at 5 meters. But when we look at the hose length, that's when things get interesting, because the Karcher is at 10 meters, the AVA is at 12 meters. This one, however, falls slightly short at 8 meters. However, when it comes to the hose, you've got to ask yourself a few things. What do you really want from it? Do you want it to be anti-kink? Do you want it to have a hose reel? The thing is with the Karcher, it has got an anti-kink hose, but it doesn't have a reel. And then we look at the AVA, it's got an anti-kink hose, and it has got a reel, but then the reel isn't as what I would say the very best out there because of that chunky handle. Whereas this one's got a really nice reel on top. You can navigate it through here and it's all nice and secure, and it's got a proper handle that you would expect with any pressure washer, which makes life just a lot easier when you're putting it all away. Now, if we talk about the handles, well, this one's just like the Karcher. It goes up and down just normally as you would expect. With the AVA, you have to tilt the machine forward, press the button and pull it down and then fold it back up. So I guess you could say that one is slightly trickier compared to the two. I actually think out of all three, this one is the best. It just goes up and down nicely, really smooth as well. So out of the three, this pressure washer is the lightest at 10.2 kilograms. Now you can put your hand under here, so if you wanted to lift it, you do have a few places where it's not difficult to lift and you can easily do it with no problems. But one thing where the Power GP6 really comes into its own is you can have, where it's got the on-off switch here, you can adjust the pressure, and it's even got a pressure indicator which tells you how much you're using. So I think this could be quite an interesting one to test out. Now, speaking of the bar pressure, it comes in at 160 bar max, so it is in theory the most powerful of the three. However, despite these promising parts, there is just one more thing which I think I really do need to test out in the real world, and that is the hose itself. I don't know whether this is a flexi hose like an anti-kink or whether it does coil up like the old school Karcher K series did. So this is going to be an experiment for me to test out later on. I really am apprehensive about it at the minute just looking at it, and if we look at the fittings here, there's no way that you're going to be able to put Karcher or AVA accessories, or even Nilfisk for that matter. I think it's completely unique in its own way. So now that makes me ask the question, if you wanted to upgrade a stubby gun, whether we could get a fitting that could go on here. Now if we take a look at the accessories, we have a wide variety in front of me. We've got a chemical bottle here, so it looks like a foam cannon, but it is just for chemicals only, so you're not going to get that same high foaming effect that you would get on the Ava Easy P57. You also get a bog standard patio cleaning tool. We've got a brush here which you can use on things like garden furniture, maybe a greenhouse, or just things around the garden. I don't know if I'd personally use this on a car because of the bristles, but hey ho, not everybody treats their car like a Rolls Royce. So I guess you could use it on your vehicle if you really weren't too bothered about it. Now, if we look at the trigger, I would say this is very good quality. It's got a really easy to connect system here for the hose if you wanted to unplug it afterwards. It's got a lock as well for the trigger, so you can't accidentally shoot anything with it. And I think all in all, when we look at all the accessories that are bundled together with this pressure washer, it is looking pretty good. I think the only real one area where this could come unstuck would be the hose. And it depends whether you could replace the hose, because if this turns out to be a really good machine and it is slightly more powerful, and you could replace the hose on this and you could replace the triggers and the stubby gun and have your own custom setup, then I really think you could maximize the capabilities of having a domestic pressure washer like this. And if you were to upgrade and get a different hose, which I don't know if you can at this particular moment, there would be enough space to fit one on there because we have got a very large hose reel. There is some assembly required, but once that's all connected, you should be able to store everything away nicely. Right, I've just had a quick play around. I think I've got this all right now, so I've put all the parts on. I can reel up the cable, which is good, and it clips in there, so that's not going to go anywhere. I've got the chemical bottle on the back, the brush, the patio head, and we have the extra nozzle and the lance. There's just one piece here, which I don't know where it goes, but other than that, I think it's great. I featured the P57 many times on the channel, and that's because this pressure washer didn't really have anything to compromise on. Normally, if a machine has something special, then it's often replaced with something that's not so great. But with the P57, apart from the handle on the reel, I couldn't really see anything else I didn't like about it. In terms of being used for car cleaning, there's no denying that the 12-metre hose saves you so much time, as you don't really need to move the pressure washer around. The premium cannon produces excellent foam, and you will be able to get up to 2 cars from one cannon, depending on how fast you work. For me, the stubby gun and the extendable lance is an utter game changer for car cleaning, and I find it crazy that nobody else has tried to do the same thing. And I appreciate the lengths they went with developing the lance, because the extendable option reduces the need to walk around the car, it reduces the risk of any shoulder strain, and it speeds up the rinsing process when you use the wider fan. I just felt the P57 was a huge turning point for AVA, but I still feel they could take this model for future reference and improve on it furthermore. Personally for me, I'd love to see a bigger and badder version with a steel reinforced hose, but on the plus side you can still swap the hose if you didn't want to use the flexi one instead. This next experiment is called the earthquake test. Yep, I'm just going to be giving these pressure washers a good shake to see whether any of the accessories are going to fall off. Let's go. Here we go, we're going to start off with the AVA. Let's give it a good shake. Nothing's coming off. I think this is looking pretty good for the AVA. One thing that I will mention though is with this foam cannon, so when I first got it, I presumed you just hooked it on top. You don't, you've actually got to hook it underneath, like so. It's passing the earthquake test, yep. That is solid. That's a really good job considering I thought this handle felt quite flimsy because you fold it out, but no, solid as a rock. Now for the Karcher K5, let's give it a good shake. Yeah, I think you're okay in that aspect. That's annoying. Okay, this is one thing that does annoy me with this pressure washer. If you are trying to pull it away from you, it's fine, but going forwards, when you're pushing it forwards, the handle just wants to go down all the time. It doesn't want to stay up. I feel that there should be some sort of clicking mechanism, which is what we have on the Gorilla Power, which just locks it in place, which is normally what you'd get with a suitcase, but I just feel that's too easy to drop down. And if you upgraded to the Power Control Flex Home and Car, where would you put your brush? Where would you put the foam cannon and where would you put the patio head? I guess you could put the foam cannon in here where the chemical sits, provided you've got no chemicals in there. So yeah, it's good. It's not as good as the AVA, but it's definitely not bad. Now on to the Gorilla Power. There is one slight drawback because when I connect this extension onto the patio head, I don't know if that goes in, that ain't coming out, is it? That's not going to go in. So I still don't quite know where to put this extra piece of equipment. So I'm going to put that in there. Everything else is good to go. I'm going to give it a good shake. I've got a feeling this is going to fall out, so I'm going to try not to break it before I even used it. Yeah. Okay, so that didn't quite go to plan, but there again, I don't know whether that's supposed to go in there because it doesn't say in the instructions or the box where it's supposed to go. Oh, hang on. Does that go in there like that? Even if it did, I don't think that would work. So, if you are going to be in an earthquake area, I think the best pressure washer to go for would be the Ava Easy P57. Durability is one of the biggest key factors for any pressure washer, and the pump is the biggest question that may come into play. The smaller Karchers have plastic pumps, however the K5 has an aluminium pump, so for me, if you're going for any K series, it's a no-brainer to go for something that's built to last longer. Both the Karcher and the AVA have the same connection fitting, so the options are endless for upgrades. And you can definitely go for a different stubby gun if you wish, if you wanted to take your detailing to the next level. The Karcher K5 Flex hose is a great upgrade, and if this didn't come with one, I'd feel it would be left behind, so I'm relieved to see them making some essential changes for the sake of the end user. Mind you, my pet maggots weren't exactly what you would call impressed. Right, power cables. All of these pressure washers have a 5-meter cable, but we haven't really identified which one makes sense and which is the easiest to put away after you've finished using your pressure washer. So that's what we're going to do right now. This is where it gets a bit tricky because I just want to be able to roll it up. Maybe if we try rolling it up first before we put it in. So I'll wrap it around my hand. The thing is, with these cables, they have to be chunky because it's electricity and water. If you're using it outside, you need to make sure it's not going to be weak and split because we all know what happens. So, because it's thick, you can't quite flex it in. So for me, I don't think that works. I mean, it works, but just not in the way that I would like. The P57 was very easy to wrap up and it securely clips in, so there's no danger of it ever unravelling. And it was the same story for the GP6. In terms of which pressure washers have the edge, I'm actually going to give it to the AVA and the GP6. I think both of them equally worked brilliantly. The only difference between the two was you could fold this down and take the cable off a lot quicker if you wanted to, if you were using the Easy P57. But all in all, I think that was a good experiment. The GP6, like the Karcher K5, has an easy to adjust lance and the gun feels solid. And you can definitely feel the extra pressure, but I feel that just having an 8-meter hose isn't quite long enough for car cleaning, because it did coil up slightly easier than the other two. I do think it would have been nice if we had an actual foam cannon to use for car cleaning, as chemicals just don't sit on the car with this. But hey, at least it came with something, and I guess you could use it for outdoor furniture. I did like the patio head too, that felt nice and solid. I think it's the curiosity factor that might sway people into choosing this, because it's a brand new pressure washer and there is no real feedback out there. And one thing I would say is that all three of these machines are around the 90 decibel mark, so there's no noticeable difference with the noise levels. So I've made some quick notes and I just want to fire lots of different numbers up on screen just to help you decide which one might be the best for you. We're going to start off with the bar pressure. In first place was the GP6. This had a maximum bar pressure of up to 160, whereas in joint second was the AVA and the Karcher with a maximum bar pressure of up to 145. Now in terms of flow rate, this is where it gets interesting, because in second place was the GP6 with 460 litres an hour, whereas in joint first place was the Karcher and the AVA with a maximum flow rate of up to 500 litres an hour. Now the hose length for me is an important factor, because you need something that's going to be able to get around the car, or if you're cleaning a large area like a patio, you don't want to keep moving the pressure washer around. In third place was the GP6. This had just an 8-metre hose. It did slightly coil up and it reminded me a bit like the old school Karcher hoses that you used to get with the old K series. Now speaking of the K series, that came in second place with the 10-metre hose, but it was their new flexi hose, and can I just say that is a vast improvement from anything we're used to dealing with in the past. So Karcher are definitely on their way up. Now in first place with 12 metres of hose, it was the AVA. Now this also had a flexible hose, so both of these pressure washers were very good. Now look, you still get them coil up occasionally. It really does depend on the temperature you're working in. In warmer conditions it's less likely to happen, but when it's colder you might notice that the hoses might slightly coil up a little bit more, but it's just due to the temperatures. In terms of how flexible they both are, I think they're great. Now let's talk about practicality and storage. So how easy is it to put away? How easy is it to pull the hose out? And can you store all your accessories on there? In third place, it was the Karcher. The only reason being is because if you do go for the upgrade, which is the Home and Car Flex Edition, then you're not really going to have anywhere to put the patio head or the foam cannon or even the brush for that matter. I feel you're going to just have to put them in a box or somewhere else. Now the GP6 was in second place. The hose is not the easiest thing to reel up. Because this hose is quite stiff and it may flex in time, I just felt it was slightly difficult. And if you've got very big hands, I know I haven't, but if I had like John Cena hands, I would keep catching it here and here every time I'm trying to reel it up, because I did catch it a few times, but if I slowed down, see, look, my hand, look, this is genuine for real. Look, I'm trying to reel it up and my knuckles are hitting it. So I just felt in that aspect, it just kind of let it down slightly. But in first place, when we did the little shaky test, the AVA was just unbelievable. You could store everything away, it didn't fall off, everything was just so secure on it, there was just nothing that you could really argue with. Oh, apart from the handle on the hose reel, I just felt it wasn't the easiest thing to reel back up. However, if they change the handle and change the direction that you can spin it to get it all raveled up again, I think that would be a real winner. Now, warranty is one of the most important factors when choosing a pressure washer. In third place was the GP6. They gave you a 1-year warranty, but I think we need to read between the lines here, because there was something they mentioned on the website about this being used between light trade and domestic. So if you are a trade valeter, you're just starting out, the warranty may cover you on that. So I think it's really important you check the Equip to Clean website just to doubly make sure. In second place was the Karcher K5. That comes with a 5-year guarantee, so at least you're covered if anything was to go wrong, but it is domestic only. Now speaking about domestic warranties only, you get a 10-year warranty with the AVA, but it is only domestic. So if you are going to be buying any of these in terms of being a mobile car valeter and you want some sort of guarantee, you might be better off going with the GP6. You just cannot use these for professional use. So now the question you're all going to be wondering, which pressure washer would I personally go for? If it was down to me, I would have to go for the AVA, purely because you get the 10-year warranty, a 12-metre hose, you get the hose on a reel, you get a 5-metre power cable, it's lightweight, it stores away nicely, you get tons of accessories, a premium foam cannon, you've got an adjustable lance, and you have a stubby gun. In terms of using this for car cleaning, I think it's just right up there, considering it's under £300. So if you've got a budget of £250 to £350, there are plenty of different options out there to get an extremely good value for money pressure washer with all the accessories you need for patio cleaning and even car cleaning. However, if you feel this is slightly over budget and you want to try something for around £29 instead, then you can go and find out what happened when I tested Aldi's £29 battery pressure washer right here.